Hi everyone. On this video, we're going to be going over equivalent fractions. And this is a lesson that I made based off of USA test prep assignment. So hopefully this will help for this week. Here's the Florida Math Standard. As you can see, it's broken up into A, B, and C. So I went ahead and just kind of made 3 goals off of the standard. So number 1, I will be able to understand 2 fractions are equivalent in Y. Number 2, I will be able to recognize and discover or create equivalent fractions. And number 3, I will be able to recognize fractions as whole numbers. So those are the 3 things that we really wanted to achieve in this lesson. Some vocabulary: equivalent means equal. Fraction means part of a whole. So for example, 1 slice of a pizza that's cut into 8 slices is 1/8 of the pizza. So equivalent fraction just means an equal part of a whole. So in this picture, you can see that the little girl thinks that she got less sandwiches than her brother. She's saying, why did he get 4 and I only got 2? But as you can see, they both got the same amount. Hers are just cut into halves and his are cut into fourths. So she just doesn't understand equivalent fractions quite yet. So we've got 2 pizzas here. One is cut into halves. One is cut into fourths. So if I take my pen and I scribble this out, that is 1/2 of the pizza. Over here, if I scribble this out, that's 1/4. But I can look over and see that the amount of shading over here, or the amount of scribble, is not the same over here. So these are not equivalent fractions yet. What I have to do, sorry, my mouse is being funny. There we go. Is mark that out, and that's also 1/4. So 1/4 and 1/4 equals 2/4. Now we can look over and see the amount of scribble, or the amount of pizza that's scribbled over, is the same on this side as it is on this side. So that means that 1/2 and 2/4 are equivalent fractions. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This is an actual problem from the assignment on USA Test Prep. And this is helping us understand 2 fractions are equivalent in Y. Excuse me. So the question says, which picture below shows an equivalent fraction to the one shown above? So first, what I want to do is write my fraction of the shaded portion. So there are 4 parts total. So that is my denominator, 4. I always like to find my denominator first. It's just easier. So I've got 4 total parts as my denominator, and I've got 1, 2, 3 that are shaded. So 3/4 is the fraction shaded. Now, the only thing I have to do in order to find an equivalent fraction here is just figure out which one of these has the same amount of shading as this one. So if I look here, I can see that only this one part's shaded, and that's 1/4. So those are not equivalent because it has less shading than the green. B has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 parts, and 6 are shaded. And it looks like those are pretty equivalent. It's got the same amount of shading. So B is an answer, but I want to go through all my options just in case. Here I've got 2 parts. 1 is shaded, so 1/2. As you can see, it's not the same amount of shading here and here. So that's not an answer. And then down here, I've got 6 parts, and 3 are shaded. So as you can see, this and this is not the same amount of shading, so this is not an answer. Now, one thing I can point out is if I look here and look here, 1/2 and 3/6 have the same amount of shading, so those are equivalent fractions. But my answer for this question was wanting to know which one was equivalent to 3/4, and that would be 6/8 because it has the same amount of shading. Oops, let me clear this. Okay. So when we get to number lines, it's pretty simple as well. So this is also understanding two fractions are equivalent in y. So is 1/3 equivalent to 2/6? As you can see, 1/3 is here, 2/6 is the orange dot, and those are on the same. Those are at the same point on a number line. So you can see that the number lines start in the exact same place, and they end in the exact same place. So they're equally lined up. The only difference is this number line is cut into thirds, and this number line is cut into sixths. That's okay, because 1/3 and 2/6 are equivalent because they match up on the number lines. So yes. Whoa. Well, I'll work with that big Y. So yes, they are equivalent because they're in the same part of the number line. Go down to this one. Is 1/3 equivalent to 3/4? Here's 1/3 on the number line here. It's the yellow dot, and then down here is 3/4. So as you can see, 1/3 and 3/4 are not equivalent. They are not on the same point on their number lines. So 1/3 is way over here, 3/4 is way over here. 1/3 is closer to 0 than 1, and 3/4 is closer to 1 than 0. So they are not equivalent. All right, let's go to the next one. This is helping us to recognize and discover / create equivalent fractions. So which missing value makes these fractions equal? Again, this was taken from USA Test Prep or IXL. I can't remember which one, but it is relevant. So 4/8 is equal to 1 over blank. So when you do equivalent fractions, you can do two operations of math. You can either multiply or divide. Here, I'm going from 4 in the numerator's place to 1 in the numerator's place. So my numbers are getting smaller. So that means I must divide. So, because if we multiply 4 times something, the answer is going to be larger. So we must divide. So what would we divide by 4 to get 1? Or what would we divide 4 by to get 1? I think I just kind of gave away the answer. 4 divided by 4 equals 1. So this is the most important part, whatever you do on the numerator, you must do the denominator. And whatever you do on the denominator, you must do on the numerator. So it has to be the same on the top and the bottom. So 4 divided by 4 equals 1. 8 divided by 4 equals 2. So 4/8 is equivalent to 1/2. All I did was I knew that I was going from 4 to 1, so I was getting smaller, so I had to divide. 4 divided by 4 equals 1. I had to do the same thing down here. 8 divided by 4 equals 2. So 4/8 is equivalent to 1/2. Down here, it's 1/2 is equivalent to 3 over blank. So this time my numbers are getting larger. So what times 1 equals 3? Hopefully you know that 1 times 3 equals 3. So then what you do in the numerator's place, you have to do in the denominator's place. So 2 times 3 equals 6. So 1/2 is equivalent to 3/6. Okay. If I wanted to check these, I'm not going to in this video just to keep it short and sweet, but if I wanted to, I could draw pictures, kind of like this one right here, where we do the shading, and check the amount of shading and make sure it's the same. On this one, it says list 5 fractions that are equivalent to 6/8. I'm not going to do that many. I did that many with a small group earlier, but I'm not going to do that many this time. Let me use a different color. I'm just going to do like 3, I think. So I'm going to put 6/8 in the middle because that's a fraction that's given to us. So if I want to find an equivalent fraction, this is actually one of the easier things to do to find equivalent fractions. I know I can, one way to find an equivalent fraction is by multiplying. So I can multiply 6/8 by something. I usually like to start at 2, because if you start at 1, you're just going to get 6/8 again, and that's kind of pointless. So let's do 6 times 2. That equals 12. 8 times 2, because I have to do the same thing on the bottom, is 16. So 6/8 is equivalent to 12/16. So that's one equivalent fraction. So I'm just going to do 3 of them. All right. Another way to find an equivalent fraction is by dividing. So let me find, there it is. Okay. I can divide 6 divided by 2. Again, I like to start at 2. 6 and 8 can be divided by 2. So that's something you have to check, is make sure that the number you're dividing by can actually go into those numbers. Luckily, 2 goes into 6 and 8. So 6 divided by 2 equals 3. And 8 divided by 2 equals 4. So 6/8 is equivalent to 3/4. So that's another way I found one. And then I'm going to find one more. So what I'm going to do is just do this. Erase this real quick. All right. Now I've already multiplied by 2 and I've divided by 2. So now I can, let's just multiply by 3. You can multiply by anything. It's dividing is when you need to find a common divisor, because not all numbers are going to be able to be divided into another number. So 6 times 3 equals 18. 8 times 3 equals 24. Ugh. My handwriting gets worse and worse with this mouse as I go. So 6/8 is equivalent to 18/24. So I found 3 fractions that are equivalent to 6/8 by multiplying by 2, dividing by 2, and then multiplying by 3. So it's not too bad. And then this is the last part of this video. This is recognizing fractions as whole numbers. So this is actually quite easy itself as well, because when you see that a numerator and denominator are the same, like 4/4, we always know that's 1. We know that because 4 parts shaded in of a shape that has 4 parts is going to mean the whole thing is shaded in. But if you also look at it, you can look at it as 4 divided by 4, and that equals 1. Now, when your numerator is larger than the denominator, you can just divide it. So 6 divided by 2 equals 3. Whoa, let me actually rewrite that one. All right. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 8 over 2 would be 8 divided by 2, which is 4. 9 over 3, which could be 9 divided by 3, equals 3. 7 over 2. Can I divide 2 into 7? Let me see, 2, 4, 6, 8. So I can't divide 2 into 7. So that means I won't get a whole number. Okay, so you have to be careful about that. All right. So I hope this video helps. This is pretty much it for this lesson. If you have any questions, just let us know and we'll be glad to help. And you guys are doing awesome on fractions. We're super proud of you. If you need any help, let us know and continue working hard. See ya.